speech. I want to bring in national security and political analyst Paul Rieckhoff now. You can check out his podcast, Independent Americans, where you get your podcast. Paul, good morning to you. As we're listening to this testimony, RFK Jr. in the hot seat about his thoughts on vaccines. What stands out to you? Have you learned anything new? What are you watching?
Wild times in America, Marnie. I mean, I think that's what strikes me the most is that there's so much deep division around almost every single issue in America right now. Every time I join you, we talk about national security. That's always my area of focus. And what I'm always left with is how ferocious the fighting is between the parties. It doesn't feel like Democrats and Republicans can agree on anything. Every day we've got a new hearing, whether it's censorship or vaccines or the military. And we're going to talk a bit about Russia. And I think about the viewpoint from enemies like Putin, who loves to see American politicians fighting, who loves to see Americans debating each other and fighting with each other on Twitter and other places, because that has our enemies celebrating. They like to see our country divided, and especially our politicians. And I think it does on some levels jeopardize our national security. They can't get other things done. They can't focus on our military and our veterans and our infrastructure when they're fighting out in the open every day. So I think like many Americans, I'm exhausted, especially independents that don't always have a dog in this fight. It feels like a summer of chaos in Washington in particular.
Yeah. I want to bring back Paul Rieckhoff now. I yield my time to you. This thing has just gone off the rails, and he is finding himself in a place he probably doesn't want to be in as he is running for the Democratic seat for president in 2024. Wowzers.
December 10th, 2020.
Yeah, this is another ugly day in Washington. It feels like every day we peep into a hearing and find some kind of craziness happening where people are screaming at each other, accusing each other of things, passing disinformation. It's just a really nasty environment. I know I'm exhausted by it. I think most Americans are exhausted by it. You know, I host a show called Independent Americans. 49% of Americans are independent now and don't want anything to do with either party because of stuff like this. I mean, Kennedy's obviously put forward a lot of crazy things. Her reactions are intense, and it's this culture of outrage where everyone's screaming over each other on a daily basis. And I'm left with, who does this benefit? How does this help, people who are trying to put their kids through school? How does this help our military? How does this help the average American? And I feel like every day in Washington is exhausting and beneath us. I think that's where I'm left. And it does impact our national security because they're focused on fighting like this instead of dealing with Russia, instead of dealing with China, instead of dealing with extremism and the economy. And I think a lot of Americans are simply exhausted and over it, and they're watching something else and going to the beach.
Yeah, well, discourse is good. A division is not. We're going to talk about Russia with you and the invasion of Ukraine and also the situation in North Korea with this U.S. soldier. Let's squeeze in a quick break if we could, Paul, and then we'll talk on the other end of it.